My name is Bryce Bowen. I am the marketing manager with Go Easy Motorcycles. I do a lot with our online campaigns, a lot with our video footage, and one of our biggest tools that we tend to use is the GoPro. And anywhere from throwing it to in little small hidden spots where people can't see it, or putting it on a tripod to get wide angle shots everywhere. This thing is amazing. Under the right circumstances, it's nearly indestructible. If your clamp loses give and it falls on the freeway driving 70 miles per hour, there's a good chance it won't work, but I have seen people recover them and it'll be fine. It all just depends on how it takes the hit. It all depends on what cases you have on it. I know a lot of people, it comes with the waterproof case, which is amazing. I hardly ever take mine out because typically when you use a GoPro, you're not trying to capture the audio. It's not that important to you. It's, to be honest, the speakers on them are all right, but once you slap a case on them, it's useless. Of course, when you go through all that, you're also getting your memory cards, anywhere from 16 gigs up to 64 gigs, and I'm pretty sure they have 100 plus gigs now. But at that point, it goes back to what are you using it for? If you're using a 100 gig card, then you're doing some pretty heavy work and you probably have multiple cameras. I tend to stick to anywhere, 32 is kind of my bread and butter. I mean, for the price point, it's not bad. 64 gigs, it's really hard to fill it up. 16 gigs, you'll fill it up all the time. So 32, I find that happy medium. And it's just a micro SD card. And typically when you buy them, they'll come with an adapter for it. So with I have a Mac, and I have a slot that I just slide it in. I know with some people, are you a PC or a Mac guy?
Mac.
Okay, perfect. I know Macs have a little more issues talking to the GoPro, so you typically have to take out the card and put it in. PC, you can just the charging cable for it. With the setting, you just hit automatically run GoPro Studio or whatever software you want to use, and it'll open it up for you. With Mac, for me it's easier to use the card because then I also am doing a lot of footage, so I can organize it. So this is this event, this is this day, this is this time, and so on and so forth. But GoPro is notorious at this point for their action stuff. You can mount it pretty much anywhere, and you can do anything with it. I've seen people take them to weather balloons and they'll send them up in the upper atmosphere. I actually have photos of this. One of my best friends did it. And he just put it in almost like a huge bubble wrap. So it's falling hundreds of thousands of feet. It's fine. But all comes down to how it takes the hit, where it takes the hit, and whether or not you're comfortable with sending it up. Again, it's a $300, $400 camera. It's a good chunk of change. They just came out with the GoPro Session, which you saw, the smaller ones. They are cheaper. They, it's a little, depending on how you look at it, I've heard mixed reviews on, it's amazing, but it's not quite the contrast of every other camera there is for the GoPro family. But again, if you're not doing professional work, if you're just doing it for your bike rides, then that doesn't matter.
That'll be fine.
I'm in the boat where I'm about to probably buy one because it's just a great camera. It's waterproof already. You don't have to buy anything outside of mounts for it and whatnot, but it's amazing. And I know you talked about wanting to find places to mount it. Again, you could do it anywhere. From some people will put it on their forks. It's not recommended because the forks are dampeners for the bike, so it'll get a lot of vibrations. Not the best spot, but you can definitely do it there. Just use a roll bar mount, and theirs are typically the widest. Tons of people mount it to their helmets, and again, there's two camps to that.
That's just a suction mount, though, isn't it?
Well, there are different kinds of mounts. There are suction mounts, which I tend to use because I'm in my car most of the time because I'm hauling gear. But there are also, they're like a sticky foam.
Velcro type?
Yeah, and that works phenomenal. With that, if you plan on, when you use that, it's long term. You can get it off, but it takes some work to it, and you gotta get some of the residue off. So I wouldn't put it on like a chrome surface that you want to show off at a bike fest or something. But I know I have two helmets, so I have one specifically for the GoPro. I'll have a mount on my chin. I'll have one coming to the side or one up here. There are two camps in this. There are You go to a track day and race bikes, they won't let you put it on your
Right.
helmet because you wreck. Sometimes those clamps are so much, your head can't tumble around like you want it to. That GoPro can snap your neck just by not moving it. So, a lot of people, you're not on the track obviously, and you're just doing daily rides, I imagine. But there's a risk with it. You throw it on your bike. I know a lot of the BMWs have that, have the visor, the shield to it. A lot of people will stick it right there, just right behind their cluster.
Huh.
So it's not distracting. It doesn't get in the way of your daily driving. I know with this one, you have the screen on it, and it turns off after, I want to say, 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
But when you're driving with it on, especially for me, it's very distracting because I'm watching the camera as opposed to the road, which is really dangerous. But you put it in front of that cluster, then you're good to go. Standard on the GoPros, if you keep it running for rides, it will put it in 15-minute segments, typically, or at least with the Hero 3. The Hero 4, it looked like they'll keep going. But with the older ones, it will clump it in a 15-minute section. So if you're on an hour-and-a-half ride, you're going to have 6 different clips that are 15 minutes long.
Okay.
And then how you want to go with that footage or how you want to edit it and whatnot, it's up to you. But the GoPro has tons of settings again. This TV, I believe it's 120 hertz, meaning it's refreshing the screen every 120 times. And you can shoot to that setting, but again, are you watching it on your computer or are you watching it on the screen? You can dumb it down to 60 hertz. You can adjust your frame rate. I know, I believe they go up to either 60 or 120 frames, depending on what camera you have. And the higher the frame rate, the less motion blur. As humans, we see a motion blur. So I shake my hand,
Right.
it's blurry to me. So that's why if you see these high-def TVs, it almost looks fake without it. Standard for television, they shoot at 32 frames a minute, which I believe is standard on this, unless you go through and change it. 60 frames is what some people will do, but that's all preference. Honestly,
But that changes battery life too, doesn't it?
yeah, so if you are shooting at 120 hertz, at 60 frames a second and all this stuff, it does drain it more.
Okay.
But it goes, and again, it depends what you're going to watch.
What you want, right.
And a lot of people, they claim that they can see the differences, and sometimes I believe they can see the difference. But to the average eye, to the naked eye,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to tell unless you're on an extremely high-def TV or a 4K TV. It's just not. I go for battery life again because the batteries are all right. They can definitely update them, but I'm constantly buying batteries, replacing batteries, and all sorts of things. That's my biggest asset. That and cards. But they're pretty standard. They got 3 buttons on there. You have your power and the mode button. I know you put it in a case like this, they don't show you what button is what, and I have the problem where I always forget what button is
Yep,
what.
unless you're using it all the time.
Exactly. And so the power button is going to turn it on, and then you hold it on. I believe it's 3 seconds. And then you want to change the mode. You can do anything from just photography, so take still shots or take burst shots or video and all that stuff. And that will cycle you through it. It'll take you to settings. You can set it up however you want. And if you have any questions about settings, I can even set your camera up if you brought it. That's the way to go. On the side, you have, on most of them, it will be a Wi-Fi Bluetooth button.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people will use their phones for almost like a remote trigger.
Okay.
So if I want to take a photo with my family and I want to be in it, I can set this on a tripod and trigger it with my phone via Bluetooth. You can do it with a laptop. I know we've done, they're not made for it, but you can do it. You can do like a live stream. So I'll set it up on a tripod and have it streaming directly to a TV, so it's real time. There's about a 1 second, half a second lag where you'll kind of notice it, but for someone, if you have 500 people, they're not going to notice. And that's, I mean, anything you can do with this. I know even in film industries, they use GoPros a lot for, you'll see Breaking Bad was notorious for it. Have you ever watched that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they'll have camera shots where the camera is in like a microwave or it's in a wall or some tight spaces. That's what they do.
Huh.
And
Don't they make LCD monitors for those too?
LCD, well, yeah.
On the
They
back.
also have for the Hero 3s and beyond, you have monitors. These ones have built into it. I don't know about the Sessions. I don't think they have one. But they're just like the external battery. You can just clip them on,
Yep.
and you can see what you're doing. I know it is a very wide angle, so depending on what you do in the software and editing, I know for myself, I don't really worry about what my shot is because often I'm going to tighten it up and kind of pick where I want it to be. And these have the capabilities of doing that because it shoots, I believe, at 4K now, which is amazing. And with that, do you know what the resolution and all that is?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the coolest thing about 4K TVs and everything. Everyone's excited about doing this, but really the advantage is on the editing side. I can take this entire room, and if I want to zoom in on this spot, it's still going to be crystal clear because of how many megapixels are in there.
Right.
And anything from floating accessories to selfie sticks to, I have head clamps I use because I hike, I have chest harnesses, anything you can think of they have. And if GoPro doesn't have it, I guarantee there's a third party out there. It has a mini HDMI port into it, so that's what this bad boy is. Except for this is a DVI to HDMI, but it looks like that, and you just hook the HDMI into it, and it goes straight to the TV, and you can just play it off that if you want. At that, you're just kind of you're you're looking at all the raw footage. So if you have an hour of just driving, probably don't want to watch it. You probably want to cut that out unless something exciting happens.
Yeah.
Typically, I'll use the suction cup mount. I have the Camaro, so the dash on the front is very straight and everything. So I'll just do it up there. Depending on the angle too, you can suction cup it to the window if you want.
Right.
Any more questions with the camera?
So you're running it. Typically, you have it in the case when you're using it. Do you use the remote?
Yeah, if I need a remote, I will definitely use the phone as opposed to buying one.
Yeah.
I know some people, it depends too, because it can also run off Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Some of the times your signal's not the best, so the remote comes in handy for it. The remote's a lot more reliable, but in a time crunch, I go the remote route. If it's like, you want to take this picture, you have time to kind of connect everything,
That's right.
the phone's fine.
Yeah.
I have never not needed it. I always run it in a case because again, audio to me is not a problem. It saves the lens for it. I can wipe this with my pant leg or whatever. I don't want to touch that with anything other than like a microfiber cloth.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of standard issue. Like, you want to prolong it, then don't mess up the lens. That's probably the most important asset to it. You've never used it on, or you've never edited the footage or anything.
No, yeah.
So I'm going to go with the GoPro Studio.
Okay.
You can go, I'll show you where to download it.
Yeah.
I use a Mac, you use a Mac, so that's good. That helps us out. You have to go and download this software from the GoPro website.
So you can get it from GoPro.
Mm-hmm. And it is free. If you just go to, I use Safari, you can use Google Chrome, Firefox, whatever you use. You just Google GoPro Studio. And it's typically the first or second one. I go with the first one. Yeah, and it'll just give you an option to download it now.
Okay.
It's completely free. It takes maybe, depending on your internet, took me about 5 minutes. There's also settings in your computer. I have my photos come up because I connect my iPhone a lot. But you can have it to anytime you insert your memory card, it will automatically open the GoPro Studio and everything.
Yeah.
That just goes back to user preference. When you open it, it's going to look like this. The first time it's going to kind of run you through their tutorial and kind of have arrows pointing to where everything's at and kind of giving you the basic rundown. After that, when you open it, this is the first screen you're going to see. You're going to have import new files. You're going to have remove the clips, clear the clips, and pretty much just getting everything you want to the same location.
Mm.
So if you have multiple clips, if you're doing multiple days, and you can organize them here. So I drove up here, let's see, from my house, because again, my life's not exciting, so, yeah, so
That's not always a bad thing.
the drive is the most exciting part. But you look at it, so they're automatically in here. it's automatically telling you your information. So it's telling me my screen size, the standard widescreen, it's 1920 by 1080. 1080 is a lot of standard TVs. Now you're getting a 4K and whatnot, but that's your pixel resolution of everything.
So now, when you're editing and that, you can crop these down to a thumbnail or
Yes.
whatever
yes.
you wanted to do, right?
Yes,
Yep.
and it goes back to, you can shoot in the highest quality,
Yep.
and then from there you can dumb it down here.
Right, and
But
just,
you can't go in the lowest quality and
Bring
bump
it
it up, because then you're gonna start having issues.
yeah,
And a lot of that goes into, if I'm shooting the highest quality, a 32 gig card, man, I don't remember the exact measurements, but a 32 gig card will shoot 4K for probably 20 minutes. Or a 32 gig card will shoot standard 480p for an hour and 20 minutes.
yeah,
Because again, it's more information, it's taking in more of the surroundings, but more of the lighting and everything, so it uses the memory a lot quicker. So again, that depends on what card you use and everything, and
got it.
I tend to not just shoot in that. I know so a lot of the new GoPros have 3D capabilities. So over here, they'll tell you if it's a
Oh.
two-dimensional video or if it's a three-dimensional video.
Yeah, I don't know.
Typically, to do 3D, you have to have 2 cameras,
Right,
and you'll have them side by side, and there's a setting in there where you'll sync them together,
mm,
and they'll shoot like that. A lot of movies will do that for tight stuff. Honestly, yeah. You probably can go to a 3D movie now, and I guarantee there's GoPro video somewhere in there. Whether it's typically action movies or something, unless it's like Spielberg shooting on old 70mm film or
Right.
something.
right,
Then you're going to get over here and you have the length of the clip. So this one's 1 minute 21 seconds. This one's 17 minutes 22 seconds. This one's 8 minutes and 7 seconds. Which now I know how long it takes me to drive to work. And that varies. I know the older GoPros will stop at 15 minutes and just start a new clip. It'll still be seamless, but that's just it'll compartmentalize it and kind of
yeah,
go about, and it makes things a little bit easier for you. The next one is your frame rate. So 29.97 is pretty standard. Everyone just calls it 30 or 32 frames a minute or a second. A minute, that'd be terrible. That could bump up to the 60 to some of them 120, and you pretty much have free range with that. I tend to stick to 29. If you're doing quicker things, like you're on a bike and you want to see the surrounding like close up,
yeah,
and you want to shoot at a higher frame rate. If you're just filming you and me or Joe Schmo or something, lower is fine. I mean, you gotta again take what you're going to use it for and
yeah,
kind of go
just
based
like
on
a
that.
camera,
Exactly, no different.
yeah,
And then so I'm just going to select probably this one. No, we'll do them all then. So I'm going to bring them in here. Well, we'll do one. So I can do here, I can go into my advanced settings. So this stuff, if I want to change my image size, so say you know your TV can only handle 720p. But there's no reason to do 1080 then. Or if your computer is doing this or that, you have PAL, so if maybe you're in England and you want to do it off their stuff, you can do that. So this is all the settings you can use.
Hmm.
The camera is native to 1920 by 1080, which is the highest for the most part, and you can dumb it down from there. Again, you can't go from 480 up or 720 up, but you can always go down. You have your options in here. You can speed up. So if you want to make a time lapse, so say you do film your trip to the Grand Canyon, you don't want to cut anything out, and you just want to make a fast video where
yeah,
under the right circumstances, it looks amazing. If you're just a straight ride, then it looks like a straight ride. I know when I do a time lapse, I mentally think like, okay, well, I know it's cooler to see me passing cars and having a lot of turns and stuff because it's more visually interesting.
Mhm.
It's a lot more exciting. So that's where you'll find that. You can speed it up. It shoots in real time. So if I want to do right now, it's defaulted to 2 times. So a minute becomes 30 seconds. 20 minutes becomes 10 minutes, and it goes all the way up to 1,000, which you're talking a 24-hour day in a matter of maybe 30 minutes.
yeah,
At that, again, you go up to 1,000, you're probably going to make somebody sick. I tend to stick around, depending on how long the footage is, from 4 to maybe 20. If it goes beyond that, then you're probably in the Adobe Premiere stuff and you need to do more. And you're shooting at the highest quality of everything and whatnot. You can also do the quality of the footage. If you're planning on filming, you can see in here, it's kind of grainy, you can see the pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's because it's not the high res, it's not processed, it's not rendered out, so it's going to show you the bare minimum, so you have an understanding of what it's going to look like. And then when you go and save it at the final end, it's going to do it at that quality you want. Low quality, if you plan on watching it on YouTube, low quality is probably where you want to be, or on your phone, unless of course you're a YouTube aficionado and you're watching it on high def or filming it for other people. Then you have your option. High, medium, low, I mean, pretty standard what you think. Again, you get a more expensive software, you can go tweak it in between everywhere, you can fine tune things. This is only giving you 3 options and whatnot. You can remove the fisheye. So the GoPro shoot extremely wide, and it gives kind of a distorting view. You start to see your edges curve and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are okay with that. I think it's becoming a standard, everyone loves it, but if you want to remove it, you can definitely remove it. They have their own process of doing it. Knowing they go through and on the software side, they'll do what they can to kind of cut it around,
Yeah.
but you'll also lose some of your edge footage because they'll zoom in a little bit to get rid of that.
Sure.
And you have that option to do it yourself in the other thing. And then if you just shoot all the time, like you're on the bike, everything, once you figure out what you want, you can just remember your future
set
stuff. So you don't ever have to, you can just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much that. Motion blur again, if you're shooting at 120 hertz refresh rate, you lose your motion blur. So it looks fake. It looks like everything's shot on a green screen or something. You can add a motion blur, and what the GoPro Studio does for that is, so you have 29 frames. So that means in every second you see there's 29 pictures. With the motion blur, it's taking that previous picture and kind of transparent it into the next one.
Yeah.
And they just keep layering it on. And it's a cool effect if you use it right, but it can also be very disorienting. But it goes back to what you're using it for. I'm going to keep mine as I shot it. You can, GoPro just sequentially names it, GoPro 21, GoPro 22, I guess I can use this. And those are your file names that it automatically gives you. You want to change the name, you go down to the file name, I'll call this Drive to Work 1. So I have 3 of them. And you just kind of go to that. And that again goes back to your filing kind of. If
Yeah.
I'm going up to my search glass, I'm not going to remember to search GoPro 0021. I'm going to remember, oh, that was my drive to work. One time I got drive to work. And that's what it's going to be too. You can also select where you want to save it in your computer. I have mine saved. A lot of Macs will go directly to the movies folder. A lot of stuff I'll have just saved directly to my desktop if it's something that I'm going to know I'm going to be using and I don't want to forget about it. I'll save it there. And then once you do that, you have everything in here. So that's going to do this. I'm going to name this Go to Work 1. I'm going to add this to my conversion list. So it's going to take that low quality and kind of get it up. But we decided that's the clip I want to work with. I'll do this one too, but we'll call this Go to Work 3. I would typically do this 17-minute one, but I have a feeling it's going to take a while to process it, so you have a lot of dead time. This still may. Once you do that, it will come over to this conversion list, and you'll know what exactly you're selecting to work with. Maybe you decide you don't want to work with that, so you can clear them all, or you just want to, maybe I don't need that clip, I'll just remove that one. It's probably not that good anyway. So you're going to click convert. It's going to come up here, it's going to run through it, and you have a little timeline. Once it fills up, it'll go to done, and once both of these are done, it's automatically going to shoot you to step 2, the editing phase. I'm going to let this go for a second. Depending on your computer will determine how fast it takes. If you have a $5,000 computer, it's probably going to take a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
If you have a $1,000 Mac, then it's probably going to take a few minutes, but ultimately, I mean, you pay for what you get. If you have a $200 computer, it's probably gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about the 17-minute clip over here. Yeah, we'll just let that go. I'm hoping I have that car accident I saw. I'm wondering if it's on that one or this one. I was driving. This car was going so super slow at this intersection. I was like, what's going on? So I'm kind of on its tail. It turned out there's 2 cars just wrecked right here. It's like, oh, well. Should have been in a hurry.
Well, there's enough wrecks around here that there's a high probability you'll see at least one each day.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even beyond that, it's, you go and between the last 5 years and 20 years ago, even out of Russia, because they all have dash cams and they all have for insurance, like, no, this guy's lying. But the amount of stuff, you see comments and stuff that you typically wouldn't be able to see or you want to show your friends. I know, what would be the biggest thing that I've done? I have a GoPro footage of me driving from Arkansas to Flagstaff. Along the way, I was in this storm system where it started out at tornadoes and hell and everything, but the more up and close to the Flagstaff you get, you can see the transition of it turning into a snowstorm. And this is like in late February, early March. And to see that a day's worth and to crank that down into 5 minutes, actually see the weather changing above you, it's amazing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's just something you can't explain to a person. Like me just even telling you, you can kind of visualize it, but then actually me showing you, it's
Big
a totally different ballgame.
Yep.
And then when you bring in footage for everything, I have mine come straight to the my memory card, come to my desktop. Some people, they don't have it like that, so you have to go into their hard drive, whether it's, again, on a Mac, so ours will show up over here in the devices. In a PC, if you go to my computer, you'll find it in there, if you're forever having reasons not to. With the adapters too, they have a little slider on the outside. It's a lock position and unlock position.
All right.
Some of them will run no matter what. Some of them, this one's finicky, so if it's not going to recognize it unless it's locked into place. Because again, I could just yank that out and you'll corrupt everything and lose everything. And this speed of this will also determine on your settings. So if you're doing 4K at 120 frames, it's going to take a lot longer than it's going to take at its native 1920, 1800, 30 frames. So then you're going to come down here and proceed to step 2.
Okay.
Step 2, so you have a couple options here. I always do the blank template because I know what I'm doing in my head. I don't want to go through this and this and this. You can use templates. They'll give you the information down here.
All right.
So this template is 30 seconds with 8 cuts. So that means that you're going to have 8 different things and it's going to be relatively quick. You can come down here to this guy, he's 2 minutes, 25 cuts. So that's probably going to be a more rapid thing. It's going to, and a lot of people, again, you're doing action things, you want more cuts because you want to feel the excitement, you want to get their adrenaline going. That's why action movies, you'll see a bunch of loud noises, a bunch of big flashes, and a lot of cuts just to get the excitement up. You see a drama, it's very boring. It's very one camera and
Yeah,
go back and
just
forth
go through.
because they want you to stay in that moment of scene. But I always go to blank template, and you can create your own and whatnot, and you can even go, maybe I use a template that you want, and if I have it on the GoPro site, you can go and download and you can use that template as well. But so I'll go and create the template, and now I have all my working media. With a ride, when you're doing rides, typically you're not going to have a bunch of clips, but if you're doing a bunch of exciting things, this entire thing will be full up and you can scroll up and down to an infinite amount of clips. Of course, the more you have, the slower it's going to be and the more your computer's going to work. Up here, you're going to have, you want to add a title to something, so you can make a title screen. So I can call this, all of your options for these are going to be on the right hand side. So we'll call it Drive to Work. a lot of people won't do this because they're gonna tack you sometimes, or if you're doing it to YouTube, you can just put it in the description and whatnot.
Yeah,
But you'll do that, you know, if I want it to fade in, so if I want it to, once you do a fade in or anything like that, you're automatically adding not only the special effect, but you're adding time to it.
time,
So I could have had this from 1 second from just flashing it. If I do a fade in, there's a good chance it's going to go from 3 to 10 to 5 seconds, however many, because it needs the time to do that. You go over here and you have, we'll go over here. You go over here and you have kinds of filters you want to do. So maybe I'm a very much a contrast guy. I like bright colors. I like to see all this stuff. So because I use Premiere, I don't have to use this. I can just adjust the levels how I want it to. But much like Instagram or any of the other things, your photos, you can just throw a filter on it, what you want. Day for night, it's a trick that a lot of low budget people will use. You can't afford to pay for lights to shoot nighttime scenes.
so you do it during the day.
Exactly, and then you just change everything up. And
Huh,
it's funny because they don't, unless you watch a lot of indie movies, you don't see it a lot, but when you see it, you can tell, and it's cool in its own way. It's very mom and pop-esque,
yeah,
but they have all kinds of stuff. You can change the aspect ratio, make it hot. I mean, right now that looks like the Phoenix to me.
yeah,
Night vision kind of do, you can do all sorts of stuff. But typically you'll have a lot of people that'll just keep it at none. Unless it's a dark day and you kind of want to brighten it up, or it's a super bright day and you're filming into the sun and you want to bring it down a little bit and go based off that. You can also,
but that's gonna do that for that whole
for
clip.
the whole clip, yes.
Got it,
There are tricks around it. For example, if I brought it into here,
yeah,
I can come in here and cut it. And so when I cut it, it's going to create a
I
completely
see.
separate clip.
yeah,
And so you can isolate it. And that's kind of where you start to see the difference between this app, the free app, versus a $400 app.
Yeah.
This is the control you start talking about. And you can, I know, if I want to take out one frame from this entire scene, I have the power to go in and do that
Right.
in the other
yeah,
programs.
you're at the frame level. isn't it?
This one is very user friendly. I know it. I imagine you've used iMovie or something.
Mhm.
A lot of Apple people will use that. It's close to that. It's the same concept, same everything. It's just a different layout.
Yeah.
And everything has the same name. You're cutting, you're splicing, you're changing your presets. You have your white balance over here. So I don't actually have a true white on here, but say I do a white balance to this guy back here, you kind of see it change the color. That's what that is. In bigger production, they will actually have a white piece of paper and they'll flash it in front of the camera. And that's how they do their white balance. To that extent, you can go beyond that. You can gray balance, you can black balance, and that's going to give you the most true color you can imagine.
Mm,
With the GoPro, you can flash it with the white balance cards and stuff, but it's going to be useless unless you're actually going through and adjusting all the settings and whatnot. It makes more sense in Adobe with this. If you have, I mean, it's probably not as white as it should be, but if I feel like I need a white balance, then I'll do it right there. And you can actually go and find a keyframe. So a keyframe is just a single frame. It is, like I said, you're doing 29 frames in every second. So the keyframe is one of those 29.
but you define which one,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
Got
And you can go, so if you hit your, on the keyboard, you just hit, those are two different keyframes.
yep,
So you just go back and forth, and that's, a movie makes a bunch of pictures, and that's what that is also. You can change your temperature settings, so if I, again, this is, a lot of this stuff that you're setting in here are already done in the filters. That's pretty much what you're doing. If they don't have the filter you want, if I want a,
so you're refining here,
exactly. My computer's being a little slow right now, but I can go through there and change the temperature. I prefer more of a blue stuff,
Yeah.
blue to me, because it's very artificial. Say you want to, if you're inside and you have a very Christmas movie, or your GoPro on Easter or something, then I'd probably go more of a warm route, because it's more
mhm,
inviting. You have images in here. So again, like a camera, exposure, contrast, sharpness, saturation. I find my personal settings, I like a higher sharpness. I like a little more saturation because I like to see the colors. I want, depending if I'm shooting at night, I'm probably a little higher exposure. If I'm shooting during the day, lower exposure. You just fine tune, you just go through there and play with them. And a lot of people, they don't know what this means, what any of these terms are. It's just a matter of playing with it. Just go out, like I just took this footage on my way up here. Just going and finding out what everything does. Just start moving the slider around to see
Well,
what it
and
does. And
I imagine there's a reset back to
yeah,
raw, right?
and you don't have to save or anything.
Right,
Yeah.
so-
And you always have, so with the GoPro, when I renamed the clips over here,
Mm-hmm.
that's creating a totally
A
separate
totally
file.
new file.
Yeah, so I still have my raw file.
Right,
If I want to go
right.
back and do something with it, I have that
Good.
power to do it. As I made clips out of it, again, because you can start using up a lot of space, my laptop's a terabyte in it, so it's hard to fill, but you can fill it. I'll tend to go through and decide, once I'm completely done with that, I will go through and delete all that raw stuff because it does take up a lot of footage and whatnot. But if it's something that I want to experiment with, maybe I want to try this version versus this version, which is, in movies you probably have 24 different cuts of it.
Mhm.
That's how we get deleted scene. That's how we get all this stuff and whatnot. And that's where that all comes from. And you decide what cut works the best for you. And a lot of times people don't mess with that because more or less you're creating these for yourself
Mm-hmm.
to show your friends, and they're not going to go, no, you're not showing it to Steven Spielberg. You're not going to show, well, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? So a lot of this stuff is just personal preference. And playing around with it and everything and whatnot. Your framing, so this one with my car, which I messed up this footage, but oh, with this car, because I'm shooting it, you have my dash right here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that takes up 50% of my screen. That's terrible. That's bad framing. So I will go in here. I will zoom in a little bit. Typically, you're not going to see 50% of the screen taken up like that. And keep in mind, you're zooming in, so you're losing information. So, yes, I'm taking away from the bottom, but I'm also taking away from the edges and the top.
Yep.
To me, that's okay with this because the sky, there's nothing happening in the sky unless there's some tragic airplane accident or something. I don't care about that. The sides, depending, it's a very wide angle view, so I'm typically not worried about that either. And the bottom, clearly, that's my goal, is to get rid of the bottom. And the higher you shoot, so 4K, if I wanted to make it just a small square with 4K, I can do that. With this, I think I'm about half the 4K, so I'm 2K technically. I can't quite do that, but even if you decide, so I'm zoomed into this amount, I'm losing, maybe I want more of my left screen. So I'll come over here,
Ah,
and I'll move it over here, because
Yeah.
that's where all my exciting things are. More expensive programs, you can control that. So maybe there's something exciting on this side that's happening, but then a second lane or something's here. So you can actually take that box that you're zooming in and move it around to certain spots.
ah,
And you can control, and again, it comes back to what you're using it for and how much control you want to. I mean, there's so many things you can do, you can get lost in it fast.
yeah, I imagine.
But I can even, for some reason, people with their iPhones, they will shoot like this. I can technically take any footage I want into this program. So if I want to take iPhone footage, a lot of people shoot like this. I've never seen a TV set up like this.
Right.
It drives me nuts. I don't know why people do it. Turn the phone sideways. If for some reason you forget to do that, you can go in here and I can rotate it sideways. And you can just keep going to the extremes. You can do it 90 degrees if you go in there, maybe not with the GoPro one, but with other editing softwares. You can, if you want to put it at a wonky 45-degree angle for whatever reason, you can do it. You have that control. And you have your dynamic range, your zoom range, anything you want to do. And let's see how far I can go with this. So I'm going to come in here. I'm probably going to scoot it up a little because I don't care about the black footage. That's useless to me. Again, if you shoot 420 or low, you're not going to be able to do this because that information is not there.
Right.
So typically, the GoPro standards are pretty fine-tuned to get the best out of the camera. And again, I'm not
They're
shooting.
defaults,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I'm not shooting for theaters or anything, so
Yeah.
that's fine. So you saw my crappy footage, what I started with, and now I'm going to this. And like I said, I can probably just get rid of all of that at the bottom because I have the hood of my car. That's my fixed point at that point. I can come in there. But again, it's also, I'm pointing the camera upwards now. There's nothing going on in the sky, so it depends on what you want. And just kind of fine tuning that. And that, you can do that for each separate clip. Ideally, I'd come in here and if you're doing like a trip, an hour trip, I'd do it for the entire clip and cut from there so you don't have to keep going in and changing them.
Right.
But if you want something drastic like, I'm doing this and then I'm going, on my trip, I'm going into this really cool Route 66 bar and I want something completely different, then you're gonna have to go into that clip and change it. And of course, you decide, maybe you don't like any of this, you can reset it on or
Reset.
take it back to whatever. Nothing's ever done. Another huge thing, which people, it drives me nuts, in your settings up here, if you go to preference, I highly recommend doing this. You have an autosave feature. So a lot of times your program, well not a lot, but it happens where it will freeze up or your computer will crash, maybe your battery is gonna die,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have your autosave on, you haven't saved. I'm a guy who doesn't, I'm to the point where I hardly save anything because I make sure it does it for me. And
That's a
you-
good one,
You
yeah.
can do it, this one's set for 60 minutes. I would do it at 5 minutes unless you're doing with very intense stuff. Then I would go down to a minute. A half a minute's a little repetitive. I mean, it will stack it. So you're not going to end up with like 40 different files. It's just going to keep reloading over
So
that.
it's overriding.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And I'll actually put mine on 5 minutes. Because it should be. So then I decided I have my clip here. We'll find, oh, let me get this here. So you have your clipping tool. With the GoPro thing, really, it's one button. You go into Adobe, you have thousands of options. So you'll learn the shortcuts to them. I know for Adobe, I can do Command C, and that's going to cut my
Cut.
frame.
Yeah,
Or I can do kind of like your undo and redo buttons, Command Z, Command Copy, and all that stuff. With this, you don't need to learn that. I don't even know if they have that option, but it's only one button for the most part. You have these options, which kind of jumps to a previous point because you can set your keyframes or your points. So, say I want to set a keyframe right here, and then I want to set a keyframe over here. These two buttons are going to jump back and forth between that if I set them up right.
I see.
A lot of times you don't need that unless you're dealing with like one clip that's an hour long.
Yep,
But even then, if you're dealing with a clip an hour long, there's a good chance you're going to just speed it up and make a time lapse out of it. And that's to the extent of what people do. We made this title up here, so I'm going to drag this down here. And it gives me, let's see. In here, you can see that little blue line out here. My computer's being slow now. Alright, so there's the title I created.
okay.
I mean, you can throw it anywhere at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. Maybe I want that title. You can select it. There we go. And this is going back to the control, which I just deleted. Alright. So we'll make the title huge at this point, just so I can find it better. So, your title down here, whatever is in yellow is what you have selected. Now I have 2 clips on things, because once you create that title, it is creating a clip. It is a time, or it's a fixed point in time.
Yep,
So maybe I want that fade that we talked about. I come over here and I'll do that fade. I can make it invisible, I can make it come in there, and then I'll adjust my fade settings, which will, it's going to add it to the beginning or end, whatever you specify into it. Fade out, fade in. And then that stuff you're just going to play with. You have your settings down here that are going to go into all of your presets, all of your templates and whatnot. You can come in here and change your fonts, change your size. Let's make this, I don't know, we'll go with that. So let's change my font up there. And you can just keep playing with that. Maybe you want it to go away. So I have this selected, so at this point in time, that's going to be gone. A lot of people don't put titles on their GoPro footage. If anything, they'll have what they call slates or title cards, or even at the end they'll have a credits, credits or end slates. What is that called? Credits.
yeah,
And they'll go through there. But again,
Yeah.
you're not making a production, so you probably don't need that. You're making
Yeah,
it for
right.
yourself. You know what it's titled,
Yeah.
and you're probably doing this and that. But when you do the title, it's going to put it right underneath. And then you have a mic down here. Maybe you want to add music to it. So you can add music. So it's not just quiet. Because again, the GoPro's quality is crap. But that will be down here. I don't have music because I don't have any
Yeah,
on this
that's
computer.
fine.
But it's the same way. It's just going to add a layer effect.
yep,
And you can do anywhere from, I know the Macs have microphones in it, so if you want to do a voiceover,
oh,
like maybe a tour, it's like, this is the Grand Canyon.
yeah.
This is where I met up with Aunt Sue, Uncle Billy, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Instead of you verbally telling them.
This is
And you
where I
do-
bent my front rim hitting that rock.
Exactly, like, and this is where that accident happened, as you can see here. A lot of people won't do that again because it is a lot more work and a lot of people are just taking GoPro footage because it's cool stuff.
Yeah,
So we
okay,
have this, I mean, this is not a very good clip at all.
that's all right.
You
Let's
can-
see it.
You can play it and kind of watch it happen. It's a little laggy because my computer is running slow and I'm working with a lot of stuff and my battery's dying. But the better, oh, you can even hear my radio,
Yeah,
at least on mine. And then the better computer, the higher you're doing it, the more smooth it'll be less laggy, of course. And then so we decided that's what we're done. That's what we want. So we're gonna go to step 3. Now we're going to export it. So this is finishing my final product. I've been naming it go to work 1, go to work 3. So we're just going to export title as go to work. I don't like using that. It's going to give you your sets. The presets are just standard defaults. If you plan on, if you know 100% you're doing this for YouTube, click the YouTube button. If you know it's going to video, do that. If you know you're
so
going to
if you were doing it for YouTube, it'll actually bring up or send it to your YouTube account or something?
It can. It's some will, some won't.
Okay.
You know, it depends on how.
So it's creating a format for YouTube?
It's creating
Got
the
it.
format.
Okay,
Some of the softwares will directly do it. I know Final Cut had one where
Yeah.
it would just automatically upload to YouTube. But then at that point, you're dealing with your personal YouTube settings.
right,
You've got to allow it to do all that, and
okay,
you got to cater to yourself. I mean, if you're the only one using that computer, then yeah.
yeah,
If you know you're doing it on a high def TV, then you have a 1080 and whatnot. But a lot of this stuff we already determined what we're doing, and it'll typically pick it based on that.
yeah,
It's going to tell you the duration of it. So it's going to be, this is going to, it's also going to tell you where. I always put my stuff on the desktop and then figure out where I want to go from there.
right,
Just because I rather drag and drop
Me
than trying
too.
to navigate and figure out where I want to put it. And it's going to tell you how big it is. So 517 megabytes, which is half a gig, pretty
Yeah.
close to. That's not bad. That's pretty big for 8 minutes, but I'm also at a high quality. If I shot at 4K, that would probably be 2 gigs.
two, yeah,
And at that, it goes back to how much space you have, what do you want to work with, and whatnot. So I'm just going to export it. and it's gonna pull up a timeline, and it's gonna save.